Hello and welcome to another episode of Boosted Autos. If you watched the last episode, you would have seen we got stuck into the MX5, starting to restore the headlights and fixing up the windscreen wipers, which I've now put back on the car. I'll show you in this video how we put those back on as well quickly. So today what I wanted to do was start to have a bit of a mechanical look over the car. There's a couple of oil leaks that I've spotted underneath, the coolant leak as well. So we're going to be having a look and sort of doing some basic diagnosis to see exactly what we're up against. Now, I've got some pretty harsh decisions to make here because the engine's got 215,000 Ks on it. Now, I don't know whether it's worth investing time and money into this engine or whether I'm ultimately going to just end up doing an engine swap anyway. So part of what we're going to be doing today is looking at the mechanical issues that we have and then sort of starting to make some decisions around whether it's worth putting the time and effort into this engine or whether we just swap it out with something that's been built or, you know, build it ourselves or whatever. So follow along and we'll get stuck into it. I'm really happy with how they've turned out. They're looking really, really good. So let's chuck them back on the car. All right, so I've got the blade back on, just clips into place. You can actually see a bit of a line there where the water's settled from the rain, which tells me exactly where the wiper blade's got to be in its seated position. So I'm just going to kind of push it flat, slide it onto the spline there, push it down, and that's that. Now, I mentioned yesterday that there was a bit of rust on the top of this stud here, so what I'll do is I'll put the bolt on first, and I'm just going to put a little bit of rust proofing coating on there just to protect it. You can also see here it's marked DR for driver's side, which lets you know which side is which. I don't know if that's the same on overseas models though, it may be different, so just check that, but DR and then P for the passenger side. So we'll sort that out, tighten it up. So I've got this rust proofing stuff called Knockout Rust KO66. It's got tar, lanolin and fish oil in it. So what it does is it removes a little bit of rust and also protects from further rust. So I don't want to spray it directly on because I don't want to clog up the whole area and end up with the wiper blade seized on. So I'm just going to spray a little bit onto my cotton tip here. Just going to dab it on the top. Pop the cap on. Now onto the other side. Alright, so clip it on. That. And again, we've got a nice line there that kind of shows from the water where the blade should sit. Push it kind of flat. There we go. And again, we'll just give it a coating of some rust-proof material just to stop it corroding in the future. Pop the cap on. And we're done. So the next thing I want to do is just start it up, switch the blades on and make sure that they align correctly when it's running and they don't bottom out on either side of the stroke. Looks good. Just having a nice up close look at it. Massive improvement. Looks really good. Looks brand new to me. Now, as you would have seen in the first video, the front bar is in pretty bad shape. Now, ultimately, I'm going to be replacing it anyway. But in the meantime, I just wanted to do something a little bit different just to take care of the major defects on it. So we'll do that first. Alright, so that's taking care of that issue. So underneath the car you can see there's quite a bit of oil and crap under here. But the main area that we're looking at is around here, and that wetness is actually coolant. It's not oil. So there's a bit of oil residue which looks like it's the front main seal leaking, but if you look up here you can see a drip of coolant just sitting there, and that's what's actually dripping down. So if we follow that up to the top of the engine bay, there's a very common coolant leak spot on these engines, which is the pipe that goes to the heater core from the back of the water pump. So I'm guessing that that's probably going to be what's leaking. But look, overall there's no major oil leaks, it's just a bit of residue. The boots all look pretty good, the steering boots look good. But you can see there's no leaks on the gearbox or anything like that. A little bit of residue, but nothing dripping or anything like that. All in all, we're in pretty good shape, no major rust. So up in the engine bay, what we want to do is we want to check all of our radiator hoses. Now there's no leak on the top hose here, follow that down to underneath here. There's no leak on the front of the water pump at all, that's fine. We've got some more coolant lines which run around here. No leaks on this pipe here, that's fine. And I don't see any leak on this pipe. So you've got another pipe that runs down there into the front of the engine. I don't know if you'll be able to see it there, but that doesn't look like it's leaking at all. There's no residue there. So we move around to the side here. We've got our two heater hoses here. Neither of those are leaking. We follow that around and we've got the ever popular hard line which runs around behind the exhaust manifold. Now you might have heard of the coolant reroute mod, which removes this pipe entirely and actually runs the coolant line around so it's not running underneath the exhaust manifold anymore. My guess is that the leak is going to be coming from this hard line that you can see here. Now, let's get my fingers in there, that one just there. Now there's a little rubber O-ring that sits on the back of that pipe and it just kind of presses into the back of the water pump there. So what we'll do is we'll shine a torch in and we'll see if that's the source of our leak. I'm guessing that it probably is, because I know it's a very, very common leak point on these cars. And with the absence of any coolant anywhere else around the upper engine, there's a bit of oil seepage out of the top of the valve cover gasket, but there's no coolant leakage anywhere else above that point. So my guess is it's going to be that point. So I'll grab a torch and we'll have a look. Now, it's very hard to get the camera in a spot where you can see, but if you look at the back of that pipe, you can see very clearly that there's coolant leaking out of the back of it. So that's definitely the source of at least one of the leaks there. So we're gonna have to fix that up. So it's not gonna be the easiest leak in the world to fix, because we're gonna have to take off the exhaust heat shield and obviously drop the coolant out of the car as well so we don't spray coolant everywhere. I might risk just doing it without dropping the coolant and see how much comes out, seeing as there's coolant everywhere anyway. So obviously that coolant leak's going to have to be fixed, and that's going to be a video in itself doing that. But look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up a lot of that oil underneath the car and just sort of see if I can figure out where it's coming from, whether it's accumulating quickly or slowly. So what we'll do for that is we'll spray some degreaser underneath that area, being very careful that we don't get it on anything rubber, and just clean up the general area and see what it looks like over the course of the next few weeks, whether there's a large accumulation of oil in that period of time or just a little bit. So we'll get into that. Okay, so I've just degreased the bottom of the car here. What I'm going to be interested to see now is how quickly everything builds up again over the course of the next couple of weeks. So I'll drive the car as much as I can once I've got that coolant leak fixed. We'll see how much oil accumulates, and that'll give us a good idea of the severity of the leaks. Look, the car's probably due for a timing belt replacement anyway, so there's a good chance we'll be fixing some of those leaks when we replace the timing belt, if we end up going down that route anyway. So that's it for this episode. Look, I've got a lot of things to consider now. Obviously the engine needs a bit of cash spent on it, so I've got to tee up whether we're better off spending the money on an engine that's already pretty old, building it up, that kind of thing, or whether we just go straight for an engine swap. So a lot of consideration to do over the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, we'll keep an eye on those leaks and see how they go, and get into trying to fix that coolant leak so the car will pass regos. So hopefully you found the video interesting. If you have, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel as always. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.